Picture this for a moment. 48 hours. Silver racing toward 110, banks scrambling, premiums exploding in Shanghai while most people are still asleep, scrolling, distracted. History doesn't knock loudly. It whispers to those who are paying attention. And right now, silver is whispering something very few are ready to hear. I remember the first time I realized markets don't move on logic alone. They move on fear, scarcity, and human behavior. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't connected. I was just curious, tired of working hard while the system quietly rewarded someone else. I started studying moments when pressure builds silently, when value is hidden in plain sight. Silver kept appearing in those moments, not as hype, as necessity, as something the world uses, consumes, and underestimates until it's too late. And every time silver moved, it wasn't polite. It was violent, fast, and unforgiving to those on the wrong side. Here's the first truth most people miss. Wealth is not built by reacting. It's built by positioning early, calmly, when the crowd is still laughing. Think about the investors who bought silver when it was ignored, mocked, called boring. Some were factory owners hedging costs. Some were entrepreneurs protecting cash flow. Some were ordinary people who simply understood that when demand becomes urgent and supply is thin, price doesn't ask permission. It moves. If silver can jump tens of dollars in days, imagine what years of quiet accumulation can do to a life. Ask yourself this: why would Shanghai pay a premium if silver wasn't scarce where it mattered most? This is your micro moment. Because premiums don't rise from excitement. They rise from need. And when the physical market tightens, paper promises start to shake. That's when the rules change. Not announced on the news, not trending on social media, just felt by those who prepared. The second truth is about mindset. Silver teaches patience like nothing else. It forces you to think long-term in a short-term world. I've seen people transform their financial lives not by chasing every opportunity, but by choosing one solid asset and respecting it. They bought consistently. They ignored noise. They thought in ounces, not headlines. Over time, silver became their silent partner, waiting while they built businesses, skills, and discipline. And when volatility came, they didn't panic. They smiled because they understood cycles. Think of silver like a compressed spring. The longer it's held down, the more powerful the release. Life works the same way. The discipline you practice when no one is watching is what creates explosive growth later. Every ounce is a vote for your future self. Every patient decision is a brick in financial freedom. Now lean in, because this is where most people fail. They want certainty. Markets never give it. The people who win are those who accept uncertainty, but reduce risk through real assets. Silver is not a lottery ticket. It's insurance with upside, practical, tangible, unimpressed by inflation, debt, or promises. If you're building wealth, start thinking like an owner, not a gambler. Set rules. Buy on weakness, not emotion. Hold with intention, not fear. Let volatility work for you, not against you. Here's another micro hook. The biggest transfers of wealth never happen during comfort. They happen during confusion. When banksters are calm, opportunities are small. When they're sweating, opportunities grow teeth. Silver doesn't need permission from central banks. It doesn't need belief. It needs demand. And demand is rising quietly, industrially, globally. I've met people who use silver profits to fund startups, pay off debt, secure their families. Not overnight miracles. Strategic wins. They didn't bet everything. They allocated intelligently, 10% here, 20% there. They treated silver as a foundation, not a fantasy. And when prices surged, they didn't rush to brag. They rebalanced, reinvested, and kept moving forward. So what does action look like right now? It looks boring to outsiders. Regular buying habits, understanding premiums, preferring physical over promises when possible, thinking globally, not just locally. It looks like asking better questions instead of chasing louder voices. And most importantly, it looks like committing to a long-term vision of yourself as someone who prepares early and reacts late. Let me say this clearly. You don't need to predict exact prices. You need to recognize pressure. When silver threatens 110 in days, it's not about the number. It's about the signal. A signal that something underneath is breaking, stretching, or being forced to adjust. Signals are gifts. Most people ignore them because they require responsibility. And here's the final shift. Wealth isn't just money. It's peace of mind. It's optionality. It's waking up knowing you're not trapped by one system, one paycheck, one decision. Silver is a tool for that freedom, not the destination. The tool. When you respect it, it respects your future. Silver has a way of revealing who understands the game and who is just watching the scoreboard. When pressure builds in the system, when premiums rise quietly in the East, while headlines stay calm in the West, that's when real investors lean in. This is not about chasing price. It's about recognizing stress fractures before they become earthquakes. Think about the people who bought silver when it was boring, when nobody made videos about it, when it sat ignored in vaults and drawers. Many of them were not speculators. They were business owners, engineers, families who understood that real value hides in what the world needs but takes for granted. Electronics, solar, medicine, infrastructure, silver flows. Through all of it, like blood through a body, unseen until it's missing. There's a powerful lesson here for life. The most important moves are often quiet, disciplined, repetitive. Just like building strength in the gym, silver rewards consistency, not ego. Investors who transformed their financial trajectory didn't wait for perfect timing. They built positions over time, ounce by ounce, while others waited for confirmation that never came. When volatility arrived, they were already positioned, calm while others panicked, because preparation changes how fear feels. Imagine silver as a coiled spring held down by years of paper promises and artificial calm. The longer it's compressed, the more force it stores. Markets work the same way human emotions do. Suppress reality long enough and the release becomes sudden. That's why sharp moves feel shocking to the unprepared and inevitable to those who studied history. Every ounce accumulated during quiet periods represents stored patience, stored discipline, stored optionality. This is where mindset separates winners from spectators. You don't need to be early to everything, just early to what matters. Silver teaches you to think in cycles, not headlines, to measure wealth and resilience, not applause, to understand that when scarcity meets urgency, price becomes an outcome, not a debate. Most people think wealth is built by making loud moves at the right time, but silver tells a different story. It shows that real progress often comes from doing the same smart thing repeatedly while no one is paying attention. When markets look calm on the surface and premiums start rising underneath, that's not coincidence, that's pressure. Pressure from manufacturers, from investors who understand supply chains, from nations that think in decades instead of quarters. Silver doesn't shout, it tightens. And that tightening is what creates sudden repricing moments that seem impossible until they arrive. I've watched ordinary people use silver as a stabilizer in chaotic financial lives. Small business owners who couldn't afford currency risk started converting excess cash into metal. Engineers and professionals who didn't trust paper assets began stacking slowly, not to get rich quick, but to stay protected. Over time, something shifted. They stopped reacting emotionally to market swings because part of their wealth was anchored in something real. That emotional stability became a competitive advantage. When others panicked, they made better decisions, both in investing and in life. Silver is a mirror. It reflects your discipline, your patience, your ability to delay gratification. Every time you buy during uncertainty, you're training yourself to act without applause. That mindset spills into everything. Careers grow, businesses expand, confidence deepens. You start thinking like someone who builds systems instead of chasing outcomes. Just as silver is used in critical technologies behind the scenes, your best moves often happen away from attention, quietly compounding. There's a reason big price moves feel sudden. They aren't created in the moment. They're built over years of neglect and misunderstanding. When the physical market tightens and trust in promises weakens, price doesn't negotiate, it adjusts. The people who benefit are rarely the loudest voices. They are the calm ones who prepared early, who understood that wealth is less about prediction and more about positioning, less about excitement and more about alignment. Silver has always rewarded those who think beyond the present moment. It teaches a simple but demanding lesson that most people resist. The future is built by decisions made when outcomes are uncertain. The individuals who used silver to change their financial path didn't wait for confirmation from headlines or approval from crowds. They acted when prices felt slow, when conversations were quiet, when conviction mattered more than comfort. That habit alone separated them from the majority, because independence of thought is the first form of wealth. There's a practical wisdom in holding something tangible in an increasingly abstract world. Silver grounds you. It turns wealth from a number on a screen into something you can measure, protect, and plan around. That clarity reduces fear. Reduced fear improves decision-making. Better decisions compound across time. This is why silver often becomes a foundation rather than a trade. It sits beneath careers, businesses, and families, absorbing shocks while opportunities are pursued elsewhere. Think of silver as stored effort. Every ounce represents work saved for the future, value preserved through cycles of change. When systems strain and confidence wavers, that stored effort speaks loudly without needing permission. The people who understood this early didn't need to rush when prices moved. They had already won the hardest battle, the battle against impatience, against noise, against the temptation to follow instead of lead. If this message resonated, if you felt that quiet click of understanding, take action. Like this video so more people hear what the crowd will understand too late. Subscribe for grounded insights, not hype. Share this with someone who's ready to think ahead, not just react, because moments like this don't repeat often, and those who listen early don't need to shout later.